The News Nation studio buzzed with anticipation, the air thick with the kind of tension that precedes a high-stakes showdown. The stage, bathed in stark white light, stood ready for a clash not just of ideas, but of generations, strategies, and convictions. This was no ordinary debate. It was a cultural moment, a collision of old-school political maneuvering and the bold, unapologetic energy of a new era. At the center of it all were two figures: Caroline Leavitt, the 27-year-old White House press secretary and a rising star in the MAGA movement, and James Carville, the 80-year-old Democratic strategist whose sharp tongue and Louisiana drawl had shaped political battles for decades. The audience, a mix of partisans, neutrals, and curious onlookers, leaned forward in their seats, sensing the stakes. This was about belief, power, and the future of American politics. Caroline Leavitt emerged from backstage first, her presence commanding attention. Her confident smile and poised demeanor belied her youth, yet her eyes burned with determination. Dressed in a sharp blazer, she moved with the grace of someone who knew the spotlight was hers to claim. The MAGA faithful in the crowd erupted in cheers, their applause a testament to her status as a symbol of a younger, fiercer generation unafraid to challenge the establishment. Across the stage, James Carville stepped forward, his weathered face carrying the weight of countless political wars. His lips curled into a sly, knowing smile, and his eyes scanned the room with the cunning of a seasoned predator. To him, the stage was home, and Leavitt, for all her buzz, was just another opponent to dismantle. The host, a seasoned journalist with a knack for neutrality, stepped to the microphone, his voice cutting through the murmurs. "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we witness a clash of perspectives on the issues shaping our nation. From personal scandals to economic policy, corruption allegations to foreign affairs, our debaters will tackle it all. Please welcome Caroline Leavitt and James Carville." The crowd roared, and the battle began. Carville wasted no time, diving into the fray with the precision of a seasoned fighter. His Louisiana drawl, slow and dripping with sarcasm, filled the studio. "Folks, let's be real," he began, his eyes flicking toward Leavitt like a challenge. "The Trump administration is a circus, and standing center stage is the perfect family he's tried to prop up. Melania? Poor thing's not a first lady. She's a pawn in a scandal-ridden marriage. Stormy Daniels, hush money, magazine covers reeking of tabloid trash. And now we've got Miss Leavitt, the perfect spokesperson for a man who can't control his mouth, let alone this country." The crowd stirred, some chuckling at Carville's biting wit, while Trump supporters frowned, their murmurs of dissent rippling through the room. Carville locked eyes with Leavitt, his voice sharpening but still eerily calm. "How much more are you gonna cover up, darlin'? Will you keep reading those scripted lines, or will you admit you're defending a man who's turned his family and American politics into a cheap comedy?" The camera panned to Leavitt, who stood unmoved at her podium, her eyes sharp as knives, a faint but confident smile playing on her lips. She didn't rush to respond, letting the silence stretch just long enough to make Carville raise an eyebrow. Then, with a voice clear and razor-sharp, she launched her counterattack. "Mr. Carville," she began, her tone a melody of gentleness and precision, "you seem to love gossip, but this is a political debate, not a late-night talk show. Melania Trump is a strong, independent woman, a role model far above your cheap attacks. The Trump family isn't your entertainment, and I'm here to defend the truth, not fuel your fabricated stories." The audience held its breath. Carville smirked, ready to interrupt, but Leavitt raised her hand, a subtle, commanding gesture that stopped him cold. "You want to talk scandals? Look in the mirror, Mr. Carville. You've built a career on smoke and mirrors, on personal attacks when you run out of arguments. If you want to talk ethics, bring evidence, or better yet, save your tabloid stories for your podcast." Laughter erupted, mostly from Trump supporters, while neutral spectators nodded, impressed by her poise. Leavitt pressed on, her voice unwavering. "President Trump is focused on moving America forward, building a strong economy, securing the border, bringing peace. What happens in his personal life? That's not your business, nor anyone else's in this room. Want to know what matters? Ask the American people who are seeing jobs return thanks to Trump's policies." Carville tried to cut in, his voice rising. "You're dodging, Miss Leavitt. Stormy Daniels isn't a small matter." But Leavitt interrupted, her tone icy. "Mr. Carville, please. You have no right to judge Mrs. Trump or anyone in their family. If you want to talk scandals, tell us about the failures of the Democratic campaigns you've led. Or have you forgotten the massive budget deficits under Clinton, the man you proudly worked for?" The audience erupted, applause thundering, some waving MAGA hats. For the first time, Carville looked disoriented, his hands gripping the podium, his mouth moving but no words emerging. Leavitt smiled, not arrogantly, but with the confidence of someone who had landed a critical blow. The host stepped forward, his voice steady, redirecting the debate. "Thank you both for that spirited exchange. Let's shift to a topic that impacts every American: the economy. Mr. Carville, during his term, former President Trump imposed tariffs to protect domestic manufacturing, particularly against China. The result was trade tensions, rising consumer prices, and a burden on American consumers. As a veteran strategist, how do you assess the real impact of this policy, both economically and as a campaign strategy?" Carville cleared his throat, his drawl tinged with a slight tremble, but striving for confidence. "Look, folks," he said, pointing at the audience, "Trump calls himself an economic genius, but we're witnessing a disaster. His tariffs, jumping from 20% to 145% on China, wiped out trillions. American businesses struggled, consumers paid higher prices, and trade partners turned their backs. This isn't strategy. It's economic gambling. Miss Leavitt, how do you justify this when Americans are bearing the consequences?" The crowd murmured, some nodding, but Trump supporters shook their heads, whispering objections. Leavitt stood at her podium, her gaze sweeping the audience, unflinching. She tilted her head slightly, as if calculating, then stepped to the mic, her voice ringing out smooth and sharp. "Mr. Carville, you call President Trump's tariff policy gambling, but perhaps you've forgotten to look at the results. Numbers don't lie, and I'll make it clear for you." She paused, letting the words sink in. Tariffs were leverage, not a burden. They forced China to negotiate, protecting American workers from cheap goods. The result? Over 350 companies moved their supply chains back to the U.S., creating 1.5 million new jobs in 2 years. Tariff revenue hit $130 billion, invested in roads, bridges, and domestic factories. You call that a disaster? I call it a win for American workers. The audience erupted, applause roaring. Leavitt locked eyes with Carville, who fidgeted. "Mr. Carville, You advised Bill Clinton, didn't you? Under your watch, the budget deficit skyrocketed, jobs flowed to China, and free trade deals sold out American workers. Now you criticize a president who's fixing those mistakes. Maybe you should look in the mirror before pointing fingers. Carville opened his mouth, but Leavitt raised her hand, silencing him. "Sorry, Mr. Carville, I'm not finished," she said, prompting laughter. "Prices rising? Wrong. Inflation is at 2.3%, lower than any year under Obama, whom you praised endlessly. Tariffs didn't cost Americans. They forced other nations to respect us. Ask any factory worker in Michigan or Ohio. They'll tell you Trump brought jobs home." Carville, face flushed, tried to regain ground. "Miss Leavitt, you don't understand global economics. Tariffs disrupted supply chains, alienated allies." Leavitt cut him off, her voice sharp. "If you want to talk supply chains, explain why under Democrats, America relied on China for 80% of essential pharmaceuticals. Trump cut that to 50% with tariffs and America First policies. You call that disruption? I call it protecting national security." She turned to the audience, her voice warm but compelling. "Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Carville wants us to believe Americans are suffering, but look at the facts. Unemployment at a record low of 3.5%, exports up 15%, middle-class families getting tax cuts. This is Trump's economy, and it's working." The audience exploded, chants of "Trump! Trump!" rising. Carville mumbled about long-term effects, but his voice faltered, lacking conviction. The host intervened, his voice cutting through the noise. "We've heard a fiery exchange on economics, but politics isn't just about numbers. Recently, corruption allegations have cast a shadow over the Trump administration's legacy, from foreign donations to opaque financial ties with Qatar and Saudi Arabia. Mr. Carville, what's your take on the severity of these allegations, and are they potent enough to shake voters' trust in Trump?" Carville seized the moment, his voice rising with renewed vigor, though a tremble betrayed his unease. "Let's cut to the chase," he declared, pointing at the audience. "Trump's running a profiteering racket, a $400 million Boeing jet from Qatar, shady deals in Saudi Arabia and the UAE. This isn't leadership, it's selling America's influence. He's pocketing millions while waving the flag. Miss Leavitt, how do you sleep at night defending a man who's turned the White House into his personal ATM?" The crowd roared, a mix of boos from Trump supporters and curious whispers. Leavitt remained composed, her face serene, hands lightly touching the podium. She let Carville's words hang, then stepped to the mic, her voice steady, laced with authority. "Mr. Carville, you toss accusations like confetti, but where's the evidence? You talk of corruption, but offer only fabricated stories. Americans deserve the truth, not your conspiracy theories." She paused, her gaze sweeping the audience. "Let's talk facts. The Qatar jet? Never used by Trump post-presidency, sitting in a hangar, fully documented. Middle East deals? Every transaction overseen by federal agencies, disclosed in over 600 pages of financial reports. If you have proof of wrongdoing, put it on the table. Otherwise, you're just shouting into the void." The audience erupted, Trump supporters cheering. Leavitt didn't break eye contact with Carville, who fidgeted. "You accuse President Trump of profiteering, but look in the mirror, Mr. Carville. You advised Bill Clinton during a time riddled with questionable pardons and fundraising scandals. Did you speak out then, Or were you too busy cashing checks? Hypocrisy doesn't suit you. Carville flushed, gripping the podium. Don't deflect, young lady, he snapped. Those deals reek of corruption. Leavitt raised her hand, silencing the room. I'm not deflecting. I'm demanding evidence, which you clearly lack. Trump's businesses have been scrutinized more than any leader in history. The result? Not one corruption charge proven. Compare that to the Democratic era when your scandals filled headlines. The audience leapt to their feet, shouts of "Caroline!" ringing out. Leavitt turned to the crowd, her voice warm but powerful. Americans want a president who fights for them, not one bogged down by slander. Trump gave up millions to serve this country. Mr. Carville, what have you sacrificed besides spreading rumors? Carville's face dripped with sweat, his eyes wavering, but still flashing with stubborn defiance. The host stepped forward, his voice steady. We've covered personal lives, economics, and transparency. Now, one issue looms global: foreign policy. From withdrawing from the Paris Climate Agreement to summits with North Korea to a hardline stance on NATO and China, the Trump administration changed how America engages the world. Mr. Carville, how do you assess America's global role under Trump? And are these changes propelling us forward or setting us back? Carville took a deep breath, his drawl clinging to its old sharpness. Listen, folks, he started, arms spread. Trump turned America into a global laughingstock. He destabilized NATO, pushed the EU away, and those Middle East trips? Just theatrics for show, not peace, but chaos. He calls it America first. I call it isolation. Miss Leavitt, how do you justify this when allies turn their backs and enemies mock us? Leavitt stood calm, her lips slightly curved as if victory was already hers. She waited, letting the silence build pressure, then stepped to the mic, her voice clear and powerful. Mr. Carville, you say America was isolated, but perhaps you're looking through a distorted lens. President Trump didn't make the world mock us. He made them respect us. She paused, drawing the audience in. The America First policy isn't retreat. It's putting American interests first. NATO? Trump pushed members to increase defense spending by 25%, strengthening the alliance. The EU, they're renegotiating trade deals to be fairer to America. You call that isolation? I call it leadership. The audience erupted, one person holding an America First sign. Leavitt locked eyes with Carville. You mentioned the Middle East. Trump made history with peace agreements, bringing stability Democrats only dreamed of. Those deals you call showboating? They brought billions in investment to America. Meanwhile, Mr. Carville, you backed policies that led us into Iraq and Afghanistan, costing trillions and lives. Who really harmed America? Carville fired back, his voice high-pitched. You're whitewashing. Trump pushed America to a dangerous edge. But Leavitt cut him off, her voice commanding. Dangerous, Mr. Carville. No new wars under Trump, the first time in decades. Ask Israel, ask Saudi Arabia. They respect Trump because he keeps his word. China and Russia now face a strong America, no longer a doormat like under Democrats. Leavitt's voice brimmed with passion. Mr. Carville, you advised failed foreign policies, from NAFTA to the weak Iran nuclear deal. Trump fixed those mistakes, putting Americans first. You call that a joke? I call it vision. Carville, face paling, muttered about long-term consequences, but no one heard clearly. Leavitt turned to the audience, her voice warm. Mr. Carville wants us to fear a strong America. I say, be proud. Trump put us back in the lead, and we won't apologize for it. The audience leaped to their feet, chants of "Caroline! Caroline!" echoing relentlessly. After 4 rounds, Caroline Leavitt had reduced James Carville from a seasoned strategist to a fading shadow. Carville, face flushed, head bowed, gripped the podium as if clinging to his credibility. The host struggled to calm the crowd, but the audience remained swept up in the fever Leavitt ignited. Outside, social media exploded. The #sign Leavitt wins rocketed to #1 globally on X within minutes. Clips of Leavitt's counterattacks went viral, edited with dramatic music and slow-motion effects. One post read, "Caroline Leavitt didn't just win, she taught Carville how to debate." MAGA star a meme showed Carville's panicked face, captioned, "When you think you'll crush Leavitt, but she crushes your career." On TikTok, Leavitt became a Gen Z phenomenon. A 15-second clip of her saying, "We won't apologize," hit 1 million views in half an hour, with comments like, "This woman is legendary." MAGA influencers spliced her moments across all rounds, adding fire effects and text. "Caroline Leavitt, debate queen." Even apolitical Gen Z joined the trend, creating dance videos set to her quotes. Democratic supporters tried to push back, but their voices were drowned out. One post defending Carville, "He's a legend, Leavitt's just a newbie," was met with replies like, "Legend? A legend turned into a punchline by Leavitt in 60 minutes." Journalists rushed to publish. Fox News ran, "Caroline Leavitt crushes Carville, defends Trump with ironclad arguments." Breitbart called her MAGA's new flame. Even left-leaning outlets acknowledged her strength. CNN noted, "Leavitt, whether you agree or not, proved she's a formidable opponent." The Washington Post added, "Leavitt's confidence and preparation are a lesson for any politician." Trump's team saw her as a strategic asset. An anonymous advisor told Newsmax, "Leavitt redefined how we communicate. She's a bridge to the new generation." Plans to feature her on Fox News and MAGA events were launched, with predictions she'd become the movement's face. Carville faced a firestorm from Democrats. MSNBC pundits called his performance a disaster, accusing him of underestimating Leavitt. A political analyst wrote, "Carville, once a master, is now a relic." His loss to Leavitt marks the end of his legacy. Social media was merciless, with memes like, "I faced Leavitt, and all I got was this, 0 points." Leavitt's victory turned her into a cultural phenomenon. Videos racked up tens of millions of views, from breakdowns of her arguments to humorous edits with explosion effects. Gen Z, typically indifferent to politics, created hashtags celebrating her style. One user wrote, "Leavitt makes me want to watch politics. She's like a MAGA superhero." Post-debate polls showed a slight uptick in Trump's support, especially in swing states like Pennsylvania and Ohio, where factory workers felt Leavitt spoke for them. A Michigan voter told OAN, "She defended Trump like she was defending us. Carville doesn't get that." Leavitt, despite her role as press secretary, became the focus of interview requests. She appeared on Fox and Friends, where the host called her an unquenchable fire. A MAGA event in Florida announced her as the keynote speaker, with thousands registering. Leavitt's victory was a turning point for the MAGA movement. She became a symbol for the younger generation, proving loyalty to Trump could blend with intelligence and modernity. Conservative blogs predicted she'd soon take a bigger role, perhaps as a congressional candidate or higher. Meanwhile, Carville's defeat signaled to Democrats that personal attacks wouldn't work against someone like Leavitt. Her sharpness and conviction had dismantled Carville, leaving him a faded figure. Back at the White House, Leavitt entered a small room, a photo of her with her husband Nicholas and son Nico on the desk. She sat, scanning debate notes, her heart swelling with pride. She had faced not just Carville, but a system of doubt and attacks on Trump. Opening 10, she read heartfelt posts from Americans. A Pennsylvania worker wrote, "Miss Caroline, you spoke for us, the forgotten." A high schooler shared, "You make me want to learn about politics." These words touched her, affirming she was fighting for millions who believed in the American dream, a nation of justice, freedom, and opportunity. Leavitt's future unfolded like a radiant horizon. Commentators predicted she'd become a senator or governor. A Daily Wire piece stated, "Leavitt combines intellect, courage, and mass appeal. She's MAGA's fresh breeze." Moderates were impressed too, noting, "Whether you like Trump or not, Leavitt is a rare talent." Despite the glory, Leavitt remained humble, shunning the spotlight to focus on work and family. A close associate revealed, "Caroline doesn't want fame. She wants change." On TikTok, a video captioned, "Believe in your dreams," inspired thousands of youths to join conservative movements. As midnight fell, Leavitt stood by a window, gazing at the Capitol's twinkling lights. She thought of Nico, of the America she wanted him to grow up in, a place where faith and hard work were rewarded. The debate was a milestone, but greater challenges awaited. With resolve, she whispered, "We'll keep going." On social media, she posted, "Together, we are strong." The message spread like wildfire. Leavitt wasn't just a debate winner, she was a symbol of a generation ready to lead America into a new era. Her journey from intern to White House press secretary, balancing work and family, was a testament to the spirit of hard work and values that define American culture. In a world of controversy, Leavitt proved that every American can make an impact by standing up for their beliefs, armed with knowledge and conviction. Her humility, returning to family and shunning fame, showed that true success lies in living by one's principles. Caroline Leavitt's story is a call to dare, persevere, and put ideals first, inspiring a nation to rise and shape its future.